Men aren't afraid of work, they're afraid of stopping. Because the moment a man stops moving, something subtle changes. You sit down, does nothing, and the system flags it as unusual. The vacuum comes out. Chores feel suddenly urgent. A quiet sigh fills the room. Nothing is said, but the signal is clear. This isn't about laziness, and it's not really about housework. This misunderstanding quietly destroys marriages, health, and identity. According to Harvard Business School, arguments over housework and rest are the third leading cause of divorce, linked to about 25% of marital breakdowns. So the real question is, why does our system interpret rest as failure? To understand why a simple nap can feel like a betrayal, we have to look under the hood, at the source code of modern relationships. This is what we call the utility trap. Over time, society has installed a quiet rule into the male operating system. Value equals uptime. You are designed to be a human doing, not a human being. When you are moving, earning, and fixing, you are online. You are valid. But the moment you stop producing, you are effectively a bricked device, a dead screen, and nobody keeps a broken phone on the coffee table. They stare at it with frustration, wondering why it's useless. But before we blame the user, your partner, we must look at the data. She is running hot for a reason. Women globally perform 1.1 trillion hours of unpaid care work annually, nearly 3 times that of men. They are running 50 background apps at once, planning meals, tracking schedules, managing emotional climates. Their RAM is full. They are tired. However, in the United States, the reality is statistically shocking. A deep dive into dual-income households and found that the leisure gap is razor thin. Husbands average 28 hours of relaxation per week. Wives average 26 hours. That is a difference of 2 hours a week. That is less than 20 minutes a day. Mathematically, the gap is negligible, but emotionally, to an exhausted partner, that 2-hour gap feels like a canyon. But wait, if you have young children, the system becomes unstable. For parents with children under age 5, the gap widens. Dads get 24.6 hours of rest, moms get 20.1 hours. That is a 4.5-hour difference. This specific gap creates a resentment loop. Even if you are working 60 hours at your job, she sees those 4.5 hours as stolen property. She doesn't see you recovering. She sees you stealing her battery life to fuel your own. And this perception bias is about to crash the entire system. Why is the anger so visceral? It comes down to a glitch in the user interface. Men and women often perform different types of labor, and one is much more visible than the other. The stats show that only 22% of men engage in housework, like cleaning daily, compared to 50% of women. Furthermore, when it comes to cooking and cleaning up after meals, only 43% of men participate daily versus 70% of women. Her work cooking, cleaning, wiping is high frequency and highly visible. She is physically moving all the time. Your work career grinding, maintenance, finance, emotional stoicism is often low frequency or invisible background processing. So, when she looks at you sitting on the couch, she compares her 50% daily motion to your stillness. She assumes you are doing nothing because she cannot see your background processes running. This leads to a massive delusion. The 2020 survey found that 59% of women say they do more housework than their husbands. Only 6% say their husbands do more. Meanwhile, 34% of men believe their wives do more. Do you see the disconnect? She thinks she is doing everything. You think it's 50 over 50. You are living in two different realities, and in her reality, your rest looks like laziness mode. This is the trap. You buy into the main character energy of being the provider. You think your deep work buys you the right to rest. But it doesn't. To the user interface, you are just a screen that went black. We are about to open up the hardware and show you exactly how this perception gap is destroying your biology. If you want to arm yourself with the logic to survive this argument, subscribe and hit the like button right now. Do it before your battery dies completely. Let's look inside the machine. To understand why this dynamic is fatal, we have to look at the machinery inside you. Your body is not a toaster. It is a biolithium smartphone battery. Under normal conditions, working, driving, parenting your processor generates massive heat. This is the stress response. Cortisol floods the motherboard. Adrenaline spikes the voltage. If you don't cool down, the battery swells. The chips begin to melt. This is where the biological miracle happens. When you sit on that couch, staring at the ceiling, you are not being lazy. You are initiating the fast charging protocol. Watch the maintenance systems. The background repair crew. They go to work immediately. They scrub the brain fog from your neural pathways. They repair tiny tears in your heart muscle caused by chronic high blood pressure. They clear the cache of the day's emotional damage. This rest phase isn't optional. It's a biological requirement. You are a masterpiece of engineering. And without these repair systems, the physics of the battery changes. The chemistry turns toxic. The system begins to damage itself. In a healthy system, downtime is protected. The partner, the user of this device, understands that if you want the phone to last for decades, the screen has to turn off sometimes. They protect the charging cycle because they value the device. But here's the fatal disconnect. While your internal systems are quietly repairing damage, the external world sees only one thing: a blank screen. And to an anxious user, a blank screen feels dangerous. Here's the problem. For some people, safety comes from constant motion, noise, tasks, activity. As long as something is happening, everything feels under control. So when you stop moving, it creates tension. Not because you did something wrong, but because the quiet removes their distractions. Now there's nothing left to focus on except their own stress, their own worries, and their own exhaustion. They don't experience your rest as recovery, they experience it as silence. And silence makes anxious people uncomfortable. So they do the one thing that restores control. They create movement. Suddenly, something needs fixing. Something becomes urgent. A problem appears that didn't exist a few minutes ago. This is the collapse. You are 10 minutes into your recovery cycle, and the system interrupts you with manufactured emergencies. The garage is a mess. Why are you sleeping when the kids need something? My ex never sat around like this. Not to solve a problem, but to make the silence go away. Not one big conflict, but a flood of tiny emergencies. Your recovery never finishes because it keeps getting interrupted. Nearly 80% of couples fight about this constantly. They admit it. The number one source of conflict isn't money, it's the division of labor and the timing of rest. But they aren't fighting about the laundry. They are fighting about ownership. They are fighting about whether you have the right to own your own time. A busy man is a controlled man. If you are exhausted, you don't have the energy to question the relationship. You don't have the bandwidth to set boundaries. You enter a state of dissociation. You are physically present, fixing the sink, but yourself has left the building. You're still here, but no longer in the driver's seat of your own life. We know the stats. Men work more dangerous jobs, commute longer, and die younger. But the silent killer is chronic, unrecoverable stress. When rest is treated as a red flag, the system doesn't slow down. It panics. It's like smashing a phone against the wall because an app took too long to load. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself this. If a system breaks from overuse, is the problem the system or the way it's being used? Consider a real scenario. A man breaks his leg in a workplace accident. A serious system failure. And what is his wife's first reaction? How long until you can work again? His pain is secondary. Productivity is what matters. He's treated not as a human who is injured, but as a machine that has stopped working. And yes, in the eyes of the economy, you are a machine. But here's the part people forget. You are also the admin of that machine. This dynamic destroys roughly 25% of marriages, but understanding the mechanism gives you leverage. It lets you override the glitch. Rest is not a luxury. It's a biological requirement. So here's a simple test. Ask one question. If money wasn't a problem, would you be okay with me resting? Watch the reaction. If that idea creates stress, the answer is simple. What's being valued isn't you, it's what you produce. When rest is acceptable for one person, but judged in the other, that's not balance. To the partners watching this, a rested man is a better protector, a better father, a better human. Taking away his peace to calm anxiety works for a moment. Then it breaks everything. The answer isn't more effort, it's stopping. Rest isn't a reward, it's maintenance. Ignore it long enough, and your body shuts you down. And once you see this, you start noticing it everywhere. If this made you uncomfortable, that's not a problem. It means there's more going on here.